Hello classmates, a blessed day to everyone and welcome to our discussion for chapter 8, which is population ecology. Classmates, if you notice our chapter 8 today, for our discussion today, this is still connected on the discussions or previous chapters from introduction until chapter 7. So in the introduction, I already introduced to you or presented to you some concept or information related to population and as well as to ecology. And I already discussed to you what is all about ecosystem, the different biomes, and also the different factors that's affecting our ecosystem and even the biomes or other concept that is related to or in line to what we call ecology. Now, let's try to look at other important details regarding population and then ecology. No? So, let's try to combine. So, let us try to look at the relationship of population and even in line to ecology. That's why we have what we call the population ecology. So, what are the things? What are the things that we need to know in this topic or in this lesson? I'm going to introduce to you how environment influences now the population. That is why it is entitled as population ecology. And we're going to look also the different life history patterns. That is one way to understand or one way to how to deal or how to explain and understand population and the influence also of the environment towards this population or towards population. And I'm going to present also to you the different revolutions or let's say the different times or eras that there is an impact or there is a effect of the population in the population, particularly to what we call population growth or the population dynamics or let's say the increase or decrease of population and even yung tinatawag natin na population or let's say the population size. So those are the three different things that we need to know in this topic. So let us proceed now on the next slide. So let us start with our definition of terms as our basis and foundation for this discussion. Again, let us go back on the definition of population. So population is defined as the group of individuals, or you can say that all individuals or all organisms that living in an area or in particular area. Okay, so group of individuals or all individuals that live or living in an area. Okay, and we also have ecology as we defined before also, that study of the relationship between plants, animals, and other living things in the environment or with their environment. Okay, and we also have population density as one of the key features that we have discussed also during the introduction. If you still remember, that is defined as the number of individuals per unit area. Okay, so per unit area. And we also have again the definition of population ecology. So from the population and then ecology, we can say that population ecology is defined now as the study of populations and their interactions with their environment. So basically, there is a there is a relationship or there is a connection of population and then the environment. That's why it is called as the population ecology. Okay. So let us now proceed now on the next slide. So let's have a quick review, my dear classmate. As we know, I have introduced you in the introduction the three key features, of the population. So what are those? So let me just ask you, my dear classmate, you can put your answer there in the comment section or in the chat box of our GMeet conference. You can write it down there or you can comment there. So yes, we have the size, and we also have density, and also we have the distributions or dispersion of population. So those are the three key features of population. And when we talk about distribution or dispersion, and we have three different types. Now we have what we call clump distribution, we also have random distribution, and we also have uniform distribution. So going back again on the simple definition of those different key features, size, that is only pertaining to the numbers of the individuals in that particular population. Density, the measurement on the capacity or the density of that particular population. And in line to density, we have already discussed to you or introduced to you a while back what is population density. That is the number of individual per unit area. Okay, and the distributions or dispersion and distribution of population, either clump, that is the most common type of distribution of population. For example, a certain type of fishes, and maybe a certain type of organism, not only fish but also maybe let's say we can say bees, a type of insect, and other kinds of organisms. And we also have random population, and it is said or described as there is an unpredictable spacing in that type of distribution of the population. And a very good example would be the forest or the mountain. Just look back again to the discussion of terrestrial biome. When you talk about tropical rainforest, that is considered to be the most biodiverse biome, then that is a good example also of there is a random distribution of those different or various types of plants and then trees, in that type of a tropical rainforest. Okay? And aside from random distribution, we also have what we call the uniform distribution of population. In a very good example, we have the penguins, because they have what we call an even spacing. So they have an even spacing between each of the penguins, especially if they are lined up, wherein they're going to transfer or go to such place or part of their habitat, and not only penguins, but also, for example, we have the ants. Ants are considered to be having a uniform distribution of population, and other kinds of examples. So why we are going back on this different key features of the population, take note. That is also our one basis and foundation for our discussion this chapter 8, which is when we talk about population ecology. So those are the size or the size, the density, the distribution, or what we call the key feature of population. Because there is also an impact, or there will be changes on the size, there will be a changes also on the density, as well as the distribution of population, because of the impact or what is happening within our environment. That's why we need to have a review on those different key features of the population. So now let's start with the very first factor, or say factors affecting or influencing now the population dynamics, or we can say that the population. So population dynamics, that is only the increase or decrease, or let's say population growth. So here are some general and practical factors that is affecting now our population dynamics. Number one, availability of resources. So resource of what? What are some examples of resources? We have there the food, the water, space, the woods, the natural resources, etc. So this availability of resources is really affecting now the population dynamics. For example, if there will be enough food, then there will be a good percentage of survival of those who are living in this particular community, or there will be a good impact to our population, because there is a higher rate chance of what we call survival. Okay? On the other hand, if there will be a lack resources, and there will be a food shortage, water shortage, then we can expect that there will be a decrease of population because of because of the illnesses, diseases, or maybe because of the death of those individuals or organism in that particular population. So it's really important that we need to take note or have to consider the availability of resources. Okay? So aside from the availability of resources, we need to look at also again those two factors, which is the abiotic and biotic factors. We are always mentioning or discussing or presenting to you those two different types of factors, abiotic and biotic. So abiotic, or the non-living factors, for example, again, going back on temperature. Yan. So temperature affects now the population dynamics. Why? In a certain community or in a certain population of a particular species, or let's say particular organism, let's say in the desert, a type of terrestrial biome, in the desert, or let's say hot desert, there are only type of population of organism. For example, the population of reptiles, we can say the population of reptiles, or let's say a type of lizard. Because of the temperature, if the temperature now will be decreased to a very cold temperature, or it will drop down into a 0 degrees Celsius, then definitely those who are those lizards or those reptiles that is surviving in a hot temperature will definitely die. Okay? Or maybe they will accommodate or will have they will get sick, or they will have illnesses or diseases. Okay? In that way, it will really affect now their population. So either some of the reptiles or the lizards will going to die, then there will be a decrease of the population. Okay? But then, if there will be a balanced temperature, or there will be a continuous or consistent temperature of the desert, and definitely the reptiles or the lizards will survive. And either there will be an increase because of the reproduction of those different kinds of reptiles or those kinds of lizard. Okay, so take note, there is an impact or there is an influence of the abiotic factor. And aside from abiotic factors such as the temperature, the oxygen, the weather, etc., we also have what we call the biotic factors. For example, humans. Yan. Or not only humans but also other animals, no, or other living organisms. So biotic factors or the living factors, for instance, humans. Yan, take note, humans, no, a very good example. So for instance, in a community or in a population of human in that particular community, if let's say one family were going to migrate or we're going to transfer to other community or to other places, then we can say that there will be a decrease already of the population. And if there will be other people, or let's say there are also other individuals that were going to transfer or going to go to that population, or will enter or will be added in the population, then there will be an increase, no, of the population. So definitely biotic factors is affecting now the population dynamics. Yan. And even the concept, now going back again on the concept of the the concept of what we call the food chain and food web. If there will be something wrong on the producer, on the consumer, then there will be an impact or a big impact on the population dynamics or population of that particular species or the population of that particular organisms. Okay, so there is a very big impact of biotic and then abiotic factors. And we need to have, again, be reminded on what we call the intrinsic factor of the different resources, the intrinsic factor of biotic and biotic factor. So what does it mean when you talk about intrinsic factor? Before, I also introduced to you what is intrinsic value. Now, that is pertaining now to the concept of sustainability. So when you talk about conservation and preservation, we need to give importance, or we need to give value to those different resources, to those different factors that is affecting our population, so that we know how going to deal or how going to respond on this particular type of problem that we're going to encounter, or why there is an increase, or why there is a rapid growth of population, or why that there is a rapid decrease of the population. So whatever the resources, whatever those factors, let's say abiotic or biotic factor, we need to have what we call the intrinsic value, or we need to give importance or give value on those different resources, etc. Okay? So again, no, those are the general factors that affecting our population dynamics. So upon existing as a living organism, as well as upon existing of environment or the resources, we need to put value or importance, or we need to take care, or we need to be concerned, no, on those different resources or our environment, so that we will know, or we need to understand, or how to deal with this problem that we are encountering to population growth, or to what we call the population dynamics. Okay? And one way also to understand, or one way to explain or know, or to deal now on how is the population growth in a particular community, or let's say in a particular population of such living organisms or species, then there are what we call life history patterns. No? So number one there, we have what we call the population growth rate models. So we can definitely use those models to present now, or to explain, or to understand the population size or population growth of a specific community or specific place, or maybe in a specific population of different kinds of organisms or species. Okay, so two types of population growth rate models. We have first what we call the exponential growth, or what we call the J curve. So upon looking at the graph, no, in the right side of our screen, you can see there exponential growth, a line graph. No? So we have their population size and then time. So what does it mean? When we talk about J curve or exponential growth, upon looking at the line or the trend of the line, you can see it's like a letter J. That's why it is called J curve. But what does it mean? It means that as time goes by, the population is rapidly increasing, or the population size is rapidly increasing. That is what we call exponential growth or J curve. At the same time, there is no constraints. Yan, there is no constraint, or there are no constraints or limitation of that population growth. No? So as time goes by, there is a fast growth of the population. Yan. And this is suited or applicable to what is happening in our planet Earth, at the same time what is happening on the population size of our country. Now, since we can say that there is a rapid growth of population, we can definitely use exponential growth to explain now the population size or the population growth here in our country. Okay? And on the other hand, my dear classmate, aside from the exponential growth, we have the exact opposite, no, of the exponential growth. We have what we call the logistic growth or the S curve. So if you like to look at again yung ating line graph, you can see there the line is like an S. That's why it is called as S curve. And take note that the meaning of this one, or how can we perceive or this representation or this line graph, we can say that as time goes by, the population growth or the population size are growing. At the same time, it is also reaching its maximum capacity, or there is what we call constraints already of the population growth. Okay, so we have what we call the carrying capacity, or let's say the limitation of the growth of the population. Okay, so basically, my dear classmate, there is what we call limited growth, and with environmental constraints and other factors that will limit now yung ating population growth. And this is basically ideal also to the different highly developed countries. Because as we discussed also before, I presented to you the three different types of countries. We have their highly developed countries, we also have moderate developed countries, and we also have the less developed countries. For highly developed countries, most of the time, we can use logistic growth or the S curve to describe their population size or their population growth. Kasi nga naman, my dear classmate, or in some reasons, we can see that their population or the population of highly developed countries are lesser compared now to the moderate developed countries and the less developed countries. Okay, so take note that in a particular community or in a particular population of an organism or a species, there is either what we call a logistic growth or maybe an exponential growth. So for example, the human population, we can use exponential growth. At the same time, we can also use logistic growth to describe it, depending already on that type of population or maybe in that particular type of community. Okay? So carrying capacity, what does it mean? There is a maximum population size. So in a practical example, for you to understand better, my dear classmate, for instance, we'll try to look at Manila and then Baguio City. So Baguio City, let's say the maximum population size should be 10,000 people or 10,000 individuals. Then there should be 10,000 people only or 10,000 individuals that should stay in Baguio City. While in Manila, if we can say that there's only 100,000, that should be 100,000 only. If it goes beyond 100,000, let's say 101,000, or let's say 10,001, then that is not already applicable to logistic growth, or we are going now beyond the carrying capacity or the maximum population size. So what will happen now? If there will be beyond the carrying capacity, that's the time that we will have already a different environmental problems. Not only environmental problems, but in line to population, food shortage, or a shortage of different resources, and other kinds of problems that we're going to encounter. So no wonder, for example, why is it that we have an interruption, or let's say scheduled or unscheduled power interruption? Because if you try to look at it, Baguio City in Manila, for instance, we already go beyond on the maximum population size. So for us to conserve energy, we need to have these kinds of scheduling or unscheduled power interruption, as well as water delivery. There is what we call water district here in our city here, let's say here in Baguio City. There is a certain scheduling also of delivery of the water. So that is also one way, or it only shows that Baguio City is already overpopulated. Okay? So for us to conserve water, we need to have these kinds of schedule. Okay? And that is one way to explain now, or to describe now, or to use now or to present the logistic growth rate model, and as well as yung ating exponential growth rate model. Okay, so that is one way for us to understand now how is population growth. Okay, we can use those different population growth rate models. And aside from these population growth rate models, we need to understand also that there is what we call a reproductive strategies. So depending on the organism, depending on the species, there is a certain different type of, or two types of reproductive strategy. So how is the reproduction? Is it fast? Is it slow yung reproduction? Bakit ganito yung population size? Why is it that the population is very, there's a large population size of this kind of animals? Then we need to understand that there is what we call a reproductive strategies. So number one type of reproductive strategy, we have what we call the R selection, or a rapid selection reproductive strategy. So from the term itself na rapid, there is what we call a fast reproduction. So they reproduce quick. What else? When we say R selection, there is what we call R selected species. So there is what we call a short lifespan of this species. There is also a small body size of this species. What else? There is also a many offspring, because they reproduce quick. What else? There is a little parental care of those different kinds of R selected species. So for example, you look at the picture, my dear classmate, you have their bacteria as a very good example. Now, they reproduce quick, but at the same time, they have a very short lifespan, because we can use, let's say, a different chemicals, or let's say a sanitizer, or maybe alcohol to remove, or maybe a medicine, or maybe something to remove those bacteria, and they don't last actually very long time yung ating bacteria. What else? We also have there a rabbit. Yeah, so rabbits can reproduce also quick, because they can give, a female rabbit can give birth at least 3 or maybe more than 3 offspring. And another example, you have also the bees. So bees can reproduce quick. So imagine one queen can reproduce a lot of baby bees. And also other kinds of fishes, like for example goldfish. And goldfish, fighter fish, they can bear hundreds of eggs. One female fighter fish or one female goldfish, that is they are considered to be an R selected species, and they have what we call a reproductive strategy, which is what we call the R selection, or a rapid reproductive strategy. Okay? And that is also explained why the goldfish are having a large population size, or let's say the rabbits are having a large population size. So that is a very good way on how to understand, or how to explain now why is it that there are some animals or some organisms are having a large size of population, because of this what we call the R selection, or the rapid selected species, or yung ating rapid selection reproductive strategy. Okay? On the other hand, as an exact type of reproductive strategy, we have also what we call the K selection. So K selection, exact opposite. They have what we call a long life span, so longer life compared now to R selected species. For K selected species, they also have a larger body size. They reproduce slowly compared now to rapid selected species, and they also have definitely fewer offspring, and they provides parental care. So For case selection, we have a parental care. For example, on the species that we can see there in the picture, a very good example, we have humans. And definitely, because a woman or a lady can give birth only one at a time. Diba? Although, if you're going to ask me, sir, there are certain cases that there is twins, and there are twins, and there are also quadruplets and triplets, but that is a rare case, no? In general, yan, the common is that a lady or a woman can only give birth one baby. So humans are producing slowly. However, the irony, yes, we reproduce slowly. However, because of the population in reality, and as well as the ratio of the giving birth of these women, let's say here in our country, let's say 8 out of 10 women, they are giving birth in one day or say in a week, then that will explain now why there is a rapid growth of population of humans. Yan. Although in the case selected species or in case selection reproductive strategy, and in reproduction, it is considered to be humans are considered to be one example on the case selection reproductive strategy. And aside from humans, we also have the elephant, and we also have a shark. And so there are certain types of shark that can bear fewer eggs compared now to other fishes, compared to the smaller type of fishes. And trees are considered to be a type of case selected species, because as we all know, tree it will took years, no, to become mature. That's why it is part or considered to be a case selected species. Okay. So again, one of the reasons or one way to understand why there are certain types of animals that is having a fewer or smaller size of population because of this type of reproductive strategy, which is what we call the case selection. Okay, so a very good example nga, sabi natin, humans, and then elephant, a shark, or maybe a type of tree. Okay, and that is the two different reproductive strategies. Now, let's now go to the last part of our discussion. So this is more on the different revolutions, or let's say the world population milestone. So let's try to compare, my dear classmate, in the different revolution. Let's try to compare the different size of population as well as the effect of the environment. Okay, so first let us go back on the old or the early time. We have what we call the Neolithic Revolution. So this is what we call the New Stone Age, and during the Neolithic Revolution, this is the start of the settlements, and so we already have what we call the start of civilization also during this time, and we also have already different kinds of technologies that we are using, tools, on living during this time, and we also have the different ways of living. Humans are having or doing already agriculture, animal care, carpentry, crafting, etc. And when we try to look back the environment during the Neolithic Revolution, it is much way healthier, or much way bigger and then healthier, and as well as there is much more resources compared during this modern time. Because the number of population also, or the size of population during the Neolithic Revolution is way smaller compared now during this modern time. And why? Take note that we have a smaller number of people or humans during this time, and we also have what we call the tribes, no? So in a certain environment, or say in a certain community, there is a smaller branches, we can say branches of tribes, or they say there are fewer tribes that is staying in that particular community. And take note that those couples and those individuals that is getting married during this time are definitely blood related now most of the time, because of the law or the norm of that particular tribe, etc. And we are not yet having advanced, or let's say the technology here is not that advanced compared now to the modern time. So the transportation, for example, during the Neolithic era, we don't have cars yet. That's why we cannot travel fast, or we cannot transport our products, or we cannot go to one place to other place in an instance or in a lesser time. No, it will take many days or weeks, no, to transfer, to go to other places. So the interaction also, and also the interaction and then the connection to other community is not that really close, or not that really productive compared during this modern time. Okay, so meaning, yan, because of this waste, or because of this starting of the civilization, and as we look at the technology, the ways of living, not that really productive compared during this modern time, that will affect now the population size during the Neolithic Revolution. So we cannot really produce quick on the different products. Let's say, for example, food sources, and although we have already agriculture during this time, but take note that we have also a fewer size of population. And one reasons also why we have a fewer size of population during this time, because of the present of the incurable or untreated diseases or illnesses that is present during this Neolithic Revolution. Because as we all know, if you have this kind of disease, definitely either you're going to die or you will suffer a lot. No? So it will lead to death, and that will cause now to the decrease also of population. And also during this time, we still practice yung traditional belief, no? So for example, if a baby was born with disability, or let's say yes, with disability, they are considered to be bad omen or bad luck. That's why on some tribes they are killing this kind of babies. And again, in line to medication, in line to the knowledge of medicine or science and technology, it's not that really advanced compared during this time. But the good thing during the Neolithic Revolution, we have a healthier environment, and we have a healthier resources, but the size of population is lesser compared now during this modern time. So after years, during the 1900s, we also have what we call the Industrial Revolution. So during the Industrial Revolution, this is also known as the Machine Age. So we already have introduced the different types of machines, different kinds of buildings inventing different kinds of transportation. Most common or the popular type of transportation during this time is the invented train. Yan. So we also introduce now the use of energy, or we process now the different raw materials to come up to produce now what we call energy. So the use of fossil fuel, or the burning of fossil fuel, either that is a coal, an oil, or a natural gas. And there is a progressing economy during the Industrial Revolution, and there is also a processing of raw materials. It means that progressing economy, processing of raw materials, we already have a good, or let's say a good production during this time of the different resources, either crops, food, production of water, etc. Different kinds of resources now that is being a very good way to improve now the quality of life during this Industrial Revolution. And we build also railways, buildings, factories, walls, etc. during this Industrial Revolution. So what is now the impact? What is now the impact on the population? In the population, because of this progressing economy, there is already an increase of population, because we are confident enough, or there is enough food or enough resources to be provided to the people. And take note that we have transportation already during this time. We can migrate, or we can immigrate, or there is an immigration or immigration during this time. So they can go, or humans can transport now to other places or other communities to interact, and other individuals can, or maybe those visitors or guests on that particular community can live there and can visit. We already have the idea of what we call tourists during this time. That's why there is already an increase of population. In fact, there is already a rapid increase of population during this time because of the interaction of the different communities, or the different in the different places. Okay? So that's the good thing, no? Because of this progressing economy. So it influences now the idea of what we call interaction, no, with the different communities. However, in the environment, my dear classmate, when you talk about the Industrial Revolution, there is a big impact also in the environment because of pollution, chemicals, toxic gases coming from the different factories or the different industries, no, during this Industrial Revolution. Because of the too much use or too much consume of raw materials for processing now different kinds of products, etc., that is a very big impact, or there's a negative impact also to the environment. In fact, not only the environment, but as well as the communities, or community in such areas, or in such areas that being affected with the buildings of or creation of the railways. Yan. So since we need the train, they are cutting down the trees, etc. And during this Industrial Revolution, there is also a progressive protests or complaints, no, from the people or from the communities that is being affected by these innovations, or with this new type of tools or advancement of technologies or the inventions. And that will lead also to the destruction of population, not only to humans but also in the population of the different living organisms. Let's say, for example, animals in that particular environment or in that particular forest or mountain that is being affected by the creation or building of those railways as well as factories, etc. Okay, so aside from increase of population, it also decreases now the population of some kinds of organisms or living organisms, such as animals, no, yung birds, what else? Maybe type of what we call a type of bear. Yeah, those are being distracted during this time because we're going to cut down trees, no, for the railways, yan, etc. We should cut down trees for buildings and so on. Alright, so classmates, aside from the Industrial Revolution, there is what we call also the medical revolution. So medical revolution, during this time, we already studied sciences and then medicine, or there is a knowledge already or studying now medicine. So we know now already the causes and treatments of illnesses or diseases during this revolution. And the good thing, if you're going to compare again Neolithic to medical revolution, before, there are untreated diseases or untreated illnesses. During the medical revolution, we can already treated these different kinds of illnesses or diseases. That's why during the medical revolution, it is said to be that the birth rate and death rate is balanced, because we can avoid or prevent death during this time because of the presence of medications or different kinds of medicines that is being processed or being created during this medical revolution. So instead of killing the baby with disorder, and we already have a medical support, or we have a proper medical support or medicine or medication during this medical revolution. And take note, during the Neolithic revolution, there is no such a thing. No, we don't have also medical facilities or medical technologies. That's why there is a big impact, no, in the population during this medical revolution, because it helps now to prevent now death. It can also help now to cure different kinds of diseases or illnesses. They even introduce now the sanitation and hygiene, or how to take care hygiene during this medical revolution. Okay, so medical revolution is considered to be one of the best time, no, to balance now yung death rate and then yung birth rate, or to at least balance or to take care now the different individuals that is suffering to such type of illnesses or diseases during the early time, or will help now the individuals, or will also help now the population, and even it will help now to the increase of population during this medical revolution. In the environment, probably a lot of us know that during the Neolithic era, they are using herbal medicines or traditional herbal medicines. But during this time, it's already good, that we can process now this kind of herbal plants into something, maybe a tablet, or maybe a type of of medicines already, or a processed type of medicine that is more effective compared now on traditional herbal medicines. Okay? And aside from the medical revolution, we also have what we call the green revolution. So this is now pertaining to the development or improvement of the agricultural and irrigation system, that it really helps now on the population growth or in the population of humans. Because take note, we can already confident, or we are confident enough to provide also waste, or provide also different kinds of crops or food source during this time because of the agricultural or development of agriculture and even the farming lands during this green revolution. Not only that one, we also have development of technologies now to improve now or for faster production during this green revolution. And aside from green revolution, we also have what we call the environmental revolution. So this is now pertaining to the present time. So 21st century until this 2021 or during this present time. So environmental revolution, we have this kind of revolution because during this time, as we all know, we know that climate change, global warming, environmental problems are already present or existing or occurring during this present time. That's why we need to be aware on the environment. That's why we are transforming technologies into something more efficient and clean, green technologies or an eco-friendly technologies that will help now to protect also or to preserve or conserve our environment. Okay? Because we know that as the population growth or the population is increasing rapidly during this time, we need to look at also to the higher demand of the different natural resources. That's why we need to take care of our environment. And take note that we need to apply the concept of sustainability. So I have mentioned to you that one before. Now when you discuss about sustainability, so improving something, developing something without destroying the natural system or, for example, our environment. And again, we need to convert now into renewable energy sources. That's why we have already what we call solar energy. We already have geothermal energy, hydro energy, etc. Now, and that is one way on how to take care also of our environment. So if we take care of our environment, it will also, the environment also will going to take care of us. And there will be a big impact to the population size of humans and even population to other living organisms. So if we take care of our environment, definitely there is a stable population of the animals, humans, as well as other living organisms. Okay, but then in reality, again, take note, no, we cannot avoid the reality or the fact that there are still environmental problems that we are facing during this time. For example, deforestation, illegal logging, burning of forests, etc. No? And not only that one, not only human activities, but as well as to what we call natural event or yung natural phenomena that is occurring in our society nowadays. No? So example, earthquake, volcanic eruptions, that will affect also or big impact to our environment. But the thing is, since you are talking about environmental revolution, there are already new methods of farming and agriculture. We need to take care of our environment by complying to the different laws or coming up the different environmental protection laws to help also on the protection of our environment. Okay, so if we protect our environment, then we can say that there will be a good or stable population growth in our country or maybe on our planet Earth. But then again, reality is really a great challenge or a big challenge to everybody to be more concerned to our environment or to take care of our environment. Take note that our natural resources are coming from the environment, or we can find a lot of resources from our environment. Okay? And it is also good thing that when you talk about environmental revolution, there is already what we call monitoring of other factors. So if we are concerned or we take care of our environment, we look at also the different factors affecting now the environment, either and the biotic or abiotic factors and other kinds of factors that affecting now the environment, as well as that will affect also our population. And this is only a short video. I want you to play this one when you download the PowerPoint, as well as I'm going to post this one in the group chat for you to watch this video connected to our discussion regarding population ecology. So the question is, what is now the importance? Now, what is now the importance of knowing those different milestones or knowing about these different life history patterns, etc.? It is also good for us to understand or how to deal now or to respond on what is happening to our population during this time. We need to be responsible also or to understand what is all about population, what is all about these resources, and that is why we need to take care of our environment, etc. So at least sooner or later you will become professionals, my dear classmate. At least you have an idea, at least you are aware what you're going to do, etc. And if you are wondering why do we need to convert into something renewable energy resources, because that is one way on how to respond or deal now to the present environmental problems that we are facing during this time. So that's it, my dear classmate. That is all about the population ecology. If you do have questions or clarifications, just post that one in our group chat or post that one in our canvas. So thank you for joining me on this discussion. I'll see you all on the next discussion. Stay safe, take care always, and God bless everyone.